The next SQL command we want to look at is the select statement. Now, select can get pretty complex. There's all kinds of different things you can do. What we're going to do here is just deal with the basics so that again, my goal is to really get you going with PHP in terms of using PHP to communicate with MySQL. So let's look at this basic command that we've seen before. We have select, which is, grab from the database. Star, this is the wildcard. This means select everything, select all the fields, all the columns in the database. And from, this is another keyword, and the table name, in this case, is people. You notice that there's quotes around it, so that's a good idea to do that. So then you hit go. Let me just shrink this so you can see the go button. Here's the go. And you see it selects all the records from the database. Let's do something else. Here is a where clause. Now, where is another keyword, and this is where you can set conditions, where you can say, let me say that again, this is where you can set conditions. Think of conditional statements. It's like sort of like an if statement in PHP. So select everything from people where condition. Now, where one is just a MySQL default, just to understand there's a lot of options and every database will do things in different ways. So let's look at the where clause in the most classic sense. So let's say we want to select everything from people where the person's name, where the name field rather, is equal to Annie. So this is in reference to the field or column name. And we're basically, where's like if. So basically you can read this as saying select all the records from the people table if the person's name is equal to Annie. If you recall, we have a few Annies. So let's try that. Let's hit go. And as you can see, it only pulls out the records where the person's name is Annie. Interesting, right? So let's go back, hit the SQL. We can go where, let's say we want to pull out all the records where the name is not equal to Annie. So let's, I'll show you that right now. Notice I put Annie inside a quote, so PHP, so MySQL knows we're looking for the string Annie. Think of the data type string as we discussed in PHP. Now, this is the not equal to operator. I believe we discussed this in PHP. It's just like PHP in so many other languages. Whereas this basically is the exclamation point, and when you have the exclamation point from the equal signs, this is not equal to. So basically we're saying here, select all the records from people where the name of the person is not equal to Annie. So when we hit go, as you can see, it pulls out the records here of everybody that's not, whose name is not Annie. So you see how that simple where statement is very, very powerful and allows us to do a lot. Now, if you notice, now with the star, the wildcard, we're pulling out all the fields, all the columns from the table. So hit go. You know, so we're getting the ID and the name. What happens if we just wanted to pull out the name? So we can go back here, and we can go, instead of select star, we can say select name. So now we go, as you can see, the ID is not pulled out. When you have a table as simple as this one, where we only have two fields, name and ID, it doesn't seem like much. But if you have a table that has many, many columns, many fields, name, first name, last name, birth date, favorite pet, favorite food, height, weight, you may have a lot of data in a table but you don't want to pull out. So what you would do is you'd use the power of the select statement using the where clause and all the other things that we can do, where you can specify just two columns. So let's say I want to pull out the name and ID. So this way, you notice I got a comma in between here. I'm saying select just name and ID from people where it's equal to where one is basically tells you just there's no condition, just pull out everything. So we're going to go. As you can see, it pulls out name and ID. Now, in this situation, because we only have two columns, two fields, name and ID, it doesn't really matter. But if we had many, if we had, let's say, sex and favorite pet, let's say pet, then you could do it this way, and you could pull out just these particular columns, particular fields from your database. You notice in between each one I have a comma. So that tells MySQL that, this is one column, this is the next column, this is the next column, so on. You notice that here I don't have a comma at the end. Again, these little details we'll get into later on. So again, so you see with the select statement, we could explicitly state the name of the fields, the name of the column we want to pull out, or we could use the star, the wildcard. There we go. And then we learned about the where clause, where we can use, we can check if something is equal to something or not equal to something. And there's a lot more. The select is very, very, very powerful. But for our purposes, this is more than enough that in terms of learning about select.